Well, hello everybody. The DUI guy is back. Not only was I live yesterday, I'm going live again today with another fan favorite of yours, Colonel Kurtz. Say hi to chat, Colonel.
Hi, I'm happy to be here. It was my first time. I'm kind of intimidated, the DUI guy.
Oh, please, please. The last thing you need to be is intimidated. Now, I have to ask, since this is the first time we actually had a conversation, are you an actual colonel by title, or is this just a name?
I wish. No, I don't think I could get past boot camp, honestly. No. It's Apocalypse Now reference. Have you ever seen the movie Apocalypse Now? It's
Of course, it's a
Oh, okay.
classic.
Okay, yeah. So that Colonel Kurtz, and people ask me why that name, since he's the villain of the film. But if you've seen the movie, you know that he's known for being very direct and blunt and telling the hard truths, and he hates hypocrisy above all else. And that gets into a little bit of trouble, but
Mm.
that's what I like about him as a character. So that's actually what the name means for me.
Respect. I really need to rewatch that movie
It's been a
because
long
that
time.
reference is a little over my head. But of course, I remember the premise, and it's a great, great flick if you guys haven't seen it. But anyway, so today, the reason I wanted to do this live is because, as you already know, I'm starting to get my feet wet slowly but surely. I mean, obviously, it's a very complex and multifaceted, multi-documented type case. And as we
It's a
all know,
mess.
it's a mess. Enough
Yeah.
said, right? In one word, one big mess. And unlike Johnny Depp, Marilyn Manson, may I say, may not be the most beloved character of Hollywood that the world has come to know and maybe love, maybe not. So there's also this added layer. It's almost seems like for a lot of people, the vibe seems to be like he's riding the coattails of the Johnny Depp trial kind of thing, where he won with flying colors, and Johnny Depp, that is. And now, we have this aura of men too, hashtag men too. It's the Me Too movement had this whole split that I think was inevitable, and I'm glad that it finally happened. We just needed something of this large magnitude to kind of, trigger a split, um, which was inevitable. And now we have, Evan Rachel Wood, along with a few others, but she's the primary catalyst in this, protagonist, whatever you want to call her, antagonist in this whole scenario. And she is alleging that she was, I mean, not just sexually abused, but she is going all the way back. And I remember watching this video. I think I was either still in high school or I just started college. That's how long ago classes.
Mhm.
I remember listening to that song and like jamming to it. I mean, it's a damn good song. And now she's saying, not only was I, you know, in that video, and this is basically where I understand the relationship really started between the two of them, Manson and Evan, but she said that she did not give consent and he penetrated her for the duration of one of the scenes in that video against her will, and then they started dating after that.
So that's okay. So you're correct about the her allegations about heart-shaped glasses, but they started dating a bit before that, and so but yeah, pretty close in the timeline. But they met at the Chateau Marmont, and then she began collaborating with him on his Phantasmagoria project, and then heart-shaped glasses came to be after that, but not too far in the timeline.
So give us the sticky. What exactly is going on between the two?
So, well, I wanted to say a couple of things about what you said earlier about Marilyn Manson and Johnny Depp. And I think if I understand you correctly, what you're saying is that there is this perception that Marilyn Manson might be unfairly benefiting from the correction now, the Me Too correction that's been brought about by Johnny Depp. And I understand that. I understand this fear that people have that, okay, now the Johnny Depp thing is going to mean that these other allegations that actually are true end up being refuted or disbelieved. But I actually, just in my own personal experience, I started my channel to mostly focus on the Johnny Depp Amber Heard situation, and only 3 weeks after I started my channel is when the Marilyn Manson thing, the allegations came out. And initially, I thought he was guilty for the same reasons that a lot of people do. I saw the image. I figured the image was a reflection of the person. And also because there were a number of different women making different allegations. I thought, well, there's got to be, where there's smoke, there's fire. But what became pretty clear to me pretty quickly, I would say within the first week of actually seriously looking into this, is that there were big problems in the stories of the accusers. In particular, I looked at a couple of interviews with like Esme Bianco, for instance, where she
Who is
repeated.
she?
She's another accuser. So she was on Game of Thrones. If anybody's seen Game of Thrones out there, she was Roz. She played a prostitute. Whether she was Peter Dinklage's girlfriend for a while, and so anyway, so I would say a sort of semi-successful actress at that point, but really that was her last big project. And so how I would describe Esme Bianco is a failed actress and a burlesque dancer and also a fetish model. She's done different like bondage and fetish shows and things like that. So anyway, she alleges that Marilyn Manson, she dated Marilyn Manson for a little while, even moved in with him briefly, and she alleges all kinds of abuse and stuff. But she's done several interviews, and that's when I really started thinking that there was a big problem here, because there were things about her interviews that were just contradictory and didn't make sense to me and just seemed ridiculous. And so then, I started looking at Evan Rachel Wood's allegations. I looked at all the different, Instagram posts of the different accusers, because this is how most of the allegations came out. These women posted this stuff to their Instagram. And I just kept finding all of these things in their statements that to me were warning signs that something was up here. And so the way that I've come to think about the Marilyn Manson case is that it is the messier version of the Johnny Depp case. In fact, I even did a video on YouTube where I compared it to the movie Alien versus Aliens. And so have you ever seen these movies, in Alien, there's one alien, but then everything gets all messy in the sequel, and you've got a lot of aliens, and you don't have a very likable protagonist because by that point she's kind of lost her mind. Well, that reminds me of the Marilyn Manson thing. He's not a likable protagonist. And we do have all these different accusers, and not all of them alleging the same things, but coming out of the woodwork. And so it's a mess. And the thing that makes it even messier is that there are things that Marilyn Manson has said, and I'm not just talking about with his rock image in general, but I mean, he's made very outrageous statements over the years that they don't look good, right? And you read his autobiography. There's stuff in there that's disturbing. Now, I and others have big issues with the veracity and authenticity of the supposed autobiography. I think that there's multiple people who've come out and have said that there's a lot of fiction in it. I just interviewed a woman this week, actually, who was friends with Manson years ago, worked with him before he hit it big, and she was telling me, oh yeah, there's a bunch of fiction in there. But there's a lot of stuff on record that makes Marilyn Manson look bad. And he has cultivated a kind of image that unfortunately is not working too well for him now. But I do believe that he is the victim of a hoax. I do think that you have basically an Amber Heard 2.0 in Evan Rachel Wood. She is more believable. She's a better actress. She's more likable. But I do think that it's basically the same thing rerunning itself, except that she recruited a number of women. So it would have been like if Amber Heard had the brains, which she didn't, to recruit multiple women to come along with her, right? But she didn't. And also Amber Heard didn't get a 2-part, HBO documentary either.
Right. So let's dive right in. I think this would be for people who are unfamiliar with this. Okay. This is the complaint. So Marilyn Manson's real name is Brian Warner, for those of you who don't know. Marilyn Manson is his stage name. He hired a firm, King, Holmes, Paterno, and Soriano, I believe they're all in California, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and Howard King, I've researched him. He's a huge entertainment lawyer. Like he's defended or he's represented like Jimmy Iovine. Is that how you say his name? From Apple, and like big in the music industry. Huge
I'm
music
not
lawyer.
familiar. Okay, so and we got Jon Snow. Here's another reference to Game of Thrones, but obviously not related. Um, anyway, so they're the attorneys for plaintiff Brian Warner. He's the plaintiff. So just like Johnny Depp in his case, Brian is suing Evan Rachel Wood, much like Johnny Depp sued Amber Heard, right?
Yes. And Evan has a co-conspirator that is also being sued. Her real name is Ashley Gore, but she goes by Ilma Gore. And this was Evan Rachel Wood's ex-girlfriend. So she was friends with this woman and then dated this woman during the time when she was recruiting these women and making these allegations. And actually, this woman is heavily featured in the HBO documentary as well. So,
Mhm.
so anyway, I just understand that a lot of the lawsuit, yes, is geared toward Evan Rachel Wood, but there's actually a lot in there that's focused on Ilma Gore because she is such a problematic, deceitful figure.
Gotcha. Okay. Um, the reason I just jumped forward, excuse me, real quick, is I wanted to see when it was filed. So this was only filed barely 5 months ago. March 2nd of 2022 is when this complaint was filed by the law firm on behalf of Marilyn Manson. Okay, so what are the allegations, right? There's, in every case, as you all know, there has to be a cause of action. The cause of action in the Johnny Depp Amber Heard case was defamation, and it had three subsets of the three allegations that Amber Heard committed against Johnny Depp. He won on all three, as we all know. She countersued, but we're not going to talk about that. We're going to focus on the complaint and at least compare and contrast so that people can digest this a little bit better. Um, so here we have four causes of action. The first one is intentional infliction of emotional distress, in the legal world also known as an IIED. That is when you claim that a certain individual has intentionally done certain conduct that resulted in you reacting emotionally, negatively, led to quote unquote distress, the legal term, which could manifest itself in many, many different forms. You know, sleeplessness, maybe anxiety. You know, those sorts of things, and it has to be intentional. There's also a sister to this cause of action. It's called negligent infliction of emotional distress. Those will be, for example, if you're a bystander near a fatal car accident, you could maybe potentially sue. You know, you saw a car accident, it was not intentional, it was an accident, you know, purely, but as a result of that, they negligently caused you emotional distress. So this one is saying, you did this to me, now pay up. The second cause of action we're all familiar with, that's defamation per se. The difference between defamation and defamation per se is, in a per se defamation claim, the damages are assumed. And my guess, there are only four types in the legal world. My guess is this one is damage to a person's reputation and business, essentially inability to earn money. Your harm, the harm that you received, has been so clear. There is no question that I've suffered harm. The only question is, do you agree that the harm has been suffered? If you agree, then the damages are presumed. Now, Colonel Kurtz, I want you to help me out here, because this is probably something that you are way more familiar with than myself. Claim number 3, a violation of the Comprehensive Computer Data and Access Fraud Act. What on earth is going on here? What is he suing for?
That that makes it sound, I think, more what's the word? More fancy than it really is. It almost sounds like we're talking about oh God, what's the guy's name? Julian Assange or something. But no, basically, with what
Or
happens
Martin
is
Shkreli?
Yeah, yeah. Basically, what happened is one of the women who is suing Marilyn Manson and one of the women who has conspired against him, I believe, is a former personal assistant named Ashley Walters. And she had access, basically, all of Manson's assistants up until 2019. I've been told had access to all of his, all of his stuff, his phone, emails, passwords, everything. And so
Wow.
basically what happened, if you believe his lawsuit, which I do, is that Ashley Walters gave all of this information over to Evan and to Ilma. And then, therefore, they could take this information and then try to basically go through and contact every woman that they could find that Marilyn Manson had had a sexual relationship with and approach them to try to recruit them. And we know about at least one person who's come forward. She goes by Greta Aurora on YouTube, but she was one of the women. She had a fling with Manson when she was 19, and she was one of the women they approached. She got an email from Ilma Gore in the name of Evan Rachel Wood, or speaking on behalf of Evan Rachel Wood, saying basically, contact us. We're putting together this activist stuff, and basically trying to recruit her. And so anyway, what that lawsuit is alleging is that his personal, all of his computer stuff was basically taken and was used in an improper way. The other thing that's being alleged, and this is even more serious, is that the conspirators, Ilma Gore and Rachel Wood, tried to basically got into his email accounts and stuff and tried to download illicit pornography and tried to
Whoa.
send it to people they were wanting to send it to people to make it look like he was, because they're trying to frame him for being a pervert, right? And so they thought, we'll download all of this bad pornography, this illegal pornography, and so that is a big part of what's going on there too in the lawsuit.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so hold on. Let me back up real quick. So the allegation in the complaint is that they used computer data that belonged to Manson, that was exclusively his. And I'm guessing this is about to tie into number 4, impersonation over the internet,
Yeah.
claiming to be, hi, I am Marilyn Manson, and then whatever it is that they're trying to get the other person to do, thinking that it's Manson on the other end of the line.
Well, yes, that's part of it, with the trying to make it look like he was downloading illicit pornography and sending it to people and stuff. But the other part is that they took all of his contacts, and then they rifled through them trying to find women that they themselves could recruit. So they didn't pass themselves off as Manson when they were doing that. They were saying, hi, I'm Evan Rachel Wood, or I'm Ilma Gore speaking for Evan Rachel Wood, and we're trying to get in touch with, potential victims and stuff like that.
That's why these two are separate. So it wasn't strictly impersonation. Sometimes they simply stole his computer data in order to access his personal contacts.
That's right. That's what they're alleging. He's alleging.
Mm-hmm. And then number 4, which we just talked about, sometimes pretending to be Manson in order to get information from people. I mean, what were they doing there?
Yeah, in order to get information from people, but also in order to put a lot of bad stuff out there about Manson. In other words, they were trying to behave in a way that would make it seem like Manson was a terrible guy and a pervert and was, harming people and stuff. So some of it was downloading, like I said, illicit stuff, and also, trying to send out stuff to make it look like, oh, he's doing some bad stuff on the internet. Right.
Crazy.
And in addition, there's some other things that are alleged in there too, in addition to the defamation. Like, for instance, there's the swatting allegation. Basically, what happened is Ilma Gore contacted the authorities and said that she was a friend of Marilyn Manson, and this is documented. She was a friend of Marilyn Manson, and she was concerned for his well-being, and so that someone needed to do a welfare check. And so and then somebody must have called the paparazzi, because the paparazzi show up there for this welfare check. You've got all of these cops, and then they're turning their helicopter, there's a helicopter overhead, and all of this. And so one of the allegations in the lawsuit as well is that they were harassing Manson by doing things like this, basically this swatting, which could have been dangerous,
Right, to his safety and well-being. Um, okay. So I think it would probably be a fruitless endeavor to try and go through all the documents in this case because they are numerous. But there are certain things over the last few weeks
Mhm.
since I've started kind of, like I said, delving into this case a little bit. Um, could you tell our audience here, we got 900 strong at this point, which I'm sure are all curious to know, what led you to believe? So you started out camp anti-Manson. You kind of jumped the gun, much like everybody else, and then
Well, I would. Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
well, if I'm misstating the facts, I'm sorry.
No, no,
Uh,
no. Go
the,
ahead.
Okay, so you started out there, and then you eventually started doing a deep dive, digging into the allegations, digging into the documents that have been submitted by Evan Rachel Wood and Manson and so on. I mean, this whole thing, by the way, I'm sorry, I'm jumping forward a
No,
little
you're fine.
bit, but the deposition, they're asking her to come in to testify, and she says, by virtue of them asking me to come in to testify at a deposition, he's trying to silence me. Like, there's all this backwards stuff that doesn't make any sense. And again, now we're starting to get a little, this kind of stinks like Amber Heard kind of, vibe already, all the way to, FBI documents being, or documents being sent over to the FBI that are forged that the FBI is investigating or something like that. So
Yes.
let us in. What made you change your mind, and why should we follow suit?
So the thing that I kind of jumped in earlier on is that I don't want to say that I was in an anti-Manson camp, in that I wasn't I wasn't making videos saying, oh, he's guilty, or I hadn't made any statements on it. What happened is, though, when it broke, my assumption was just from thinking, oh, it's Marilyn Manson, and look, there's a number of women accusing him, and oh, I think Evan Rachel Wood seems credible. She doesn't seem like she's crazy. My assumption was that he was guilty. But very, very soon, I would say within the first day or two, I mean, really, as soon as I read these Instagram posts, because like I said, these accusers, they all posted on the same day in February 2021. They posted their allegations on their Instagram. And there were things that just did not make sense to me.
Hmm.
For example, a number of the accusers seem, well, a number of the allegations have gotten more serious as time has gone on. So, like initially, for instance, the things that Esme Bianco were claiming were not as serious as what she ended up claiming in her lawsuit. So some of these things have changed over time, and Evan Rachel Wood's story has changed some over time as well. But when I looked at the statements of a number of the accusers, to me there was a real refusal to take any responsibility. For me, with the first thing that set me off was a clear lack of willingness to take responsibility for their own behaviors. So there were almost all of them complained about the fact that Manson coerced them into doing drugs. Basically, I'm using that term, but that's basically what they were saying. Well, come on. He's a rock star. You hung out with him, you did drugs, no one forced them down your throat, but now it's being recontextualized as, oh, he fed me drugs, right? He was a predator. He gave me these drugs, and I didn't want to do drugs. I'm totally sober, right? It's that sort of attitude. And so I didn't like that. I didn't like how there was no responsibility taken for any of their behavior. It was like they were acting like they were like 6-year-olds, 6 years old, and they're just totally at the mercy of this guy. And also there was a real naivete about the fact that this man is a rock star with a really dark public persona, and yet these women in their statements, they seemed just to be like, for instance, one of them said that she fell in love with Manson because he offered her the illusion of safety. Is that what you think of when you think of Marilyn Manson, as safety? So there were things that I just couldn't buy. Esme Bianco, in her interviews, she states that the first time Manson abused her, it was during a music video shoot. He had invited her to come to his house. He flew her to LA to come to his house and to do a weekend-long guerrilla style music video shoot. He was going to shoot it on his flip cam. That's back when stuff like that was cool. And so he tells her, now understand, she had been a fetish and a bondage model before. Like she had done some of this stuff, right? And he tells her hey, the very last scene, it's a scene where you're basically my victim, and so I'm going to have to manhandle you. It's going to kind of get rough some. And she admits this. She admits that he told her, that he prepared her for the fact that the last scene, the climactic scene, was going to be a little rough, right? Well, so she goes to his house. She stays there. This is according to her interviews. She stays there the whole weekend. He never does a single violent thing toward her or toward anyone. And he never tries to have sex with her. This guy is apparently such a crazed sexual predator that he has this beautiful woman at his home in lingerie for the whole weekend. And she says he never tried to do anything to her. But so anyway, so she stays there the whole weekend. She claims that, he was at one point he got angry and he flew his flip phone at a light or something. Like, that's the worst she could come up with, right? Is that he got a little stressed out during a shoot and he flew a flip phone off in the distance. So anyway, this whole weekend transpires exactly as he said it would. They shoot this different video footage and everything. He doesn't hurt her, doesn't try anything with her. And then they come to that climactic scene that he had warned her about, where, according to the scene, she is going to get on this prayer kneeler, be tied to this prayer kneeler, and then she's going to be whipped. Now, she herself claims that nothing had happened this whole weekend until the very end. He does exactly what he said he's going to do. He ties her to the prayer kneeler, he whips her, and then guess what? She admits that she sent him a text later basically telling him how much she enjoyed it. She never says no. She never complains. She never says stop. She never says this is hurting. She's totally on board. And yet now she is reframing that as an assault. I just do not think that makes sense. And people can look at that interview themselves. Go back and look. It was the interview that she did in the Cut magazine, and then also she did an interview for Good Morning America. You find both of those, and this is the story that she lays out. So it was stuff like that to me, that just these things that didn't make sense to me. And and then I didn't like the fact that it was all coordinated. They all came out with their statements on the same day. And the statements, by the way, they all sounded the same. They were obviously written together or ghost written, which one of the accusers ended up admitting to later in an exchange with a Manson supporter, that they had written their statements together. But you go, as a lawyer, you go and you look at their statements that they post on Instagram. They use the same phrasing, the same words. They make the same claims. It's clearly ghost written, and so written together. And so the fact that this was such a hyper coordinated thing, it seemed like to me it was a kind of a hit job, not unlike what Amber Heard tried to do. It's just that Amber Heard did not have the number of conspirators that she had IO and a couple of others, right? So
since then, I did not get the luxury, because since I don't have the time, unfortunately, as much as I would love to, review. I know you did a lot of interviews yourself.
I did.
With people who have been close to Manson and can refute some of the allegations. So can you tell us who, we don't have to have an exhaustive list, but
no, I understand.
Who have you interviewed? What have you learned? And this is straight from the horse's mouth, right? This can be found on your channel, by the way. And I think Jen is in the chat. She has been spamming your link. So Jen, if you don't mind sharing Colonel Kurtz's channel link one more time. It can all be found on your channel, but can you just give us kind of like the Reader's Digest version of what have you found out from these people who are close to Manson and are refuting the allegations by Wood and Gore?
Yeah, so I started doing. So what happened is, basically, when I started to have problems with this story, I put up some YouTube videos talking about my issues with it, and basically I kind of got a little following at that point of Manson supporters. And then I had people, and then over the coming months, I had people approach me wanting to do interviews because they said that they couldn't get their story out to the mainstream media. So I've interviewed a couple of Manson's personal assistants, including a woman named Paula, who has been his assistant for years, off and on for years, and has been his friend for years, knows him very, very well. And she was also his assistant for some of the time that he was with Evan Rachel Wood. So she was able to observe that relationship. But I've interviewed her. I've interviewed another personal assistant. I've interviewed several former girlfriends and former lovers. And I've interviewed also some former friends of Marilyn Manson and Evan Rachel Wood, and one person who was even living in the same house with Marilyn Manson and Evan Rachel Wood for a bit of time, and went on tour with them and was around them a lot. So basically what I've tried to do is I've been lucky to do is have people approach me wanting to do interviews about who they think the real Marilyn Manson is. And like I said, a number of these people, they have no incentive to lie. Okay. I'm not paying them. They're not getting any big acclaim from going on a random YouTube channel. Right. But they just really feel that the story on him is wrong. And what his ex-lovers have told me is that he's actually kind of a schmuck, or one of them said he's a chump when it comes to women. And they all say that he's not abusive, that they don't in any way recognize the person that these accusers are describing. And in fact, that he's not even into kinky sex, which shocked me, but that's what they all said. And so it's given me a real perspective on him that the mainstream media is not giving us. And look, I know that people can question the veracity of my interviews, just like I can question Evan Rachel Wood and I can question the other accusers, right? Of course, I don't 100% know if someone is telling the truth or not. But what I will say is that I have interacted now with these people that I've interviewed, a number of them for a long time now. I mean, some of them I've known now over a year, lots of interaction. And I think that they are very credible people. And I don't think that they're feeding me BS. And so there is a whole other side of Manson that these accusers, that Manson is a different person than what these accusers are presenting. That's what I believe. And so that's what I've tried to show on my channel. And I've interviewed a number of people who say that. Now, is he perfect? No, he's had significant, as everybody knows, he's had significant substance abuse problems. He gets stressed out. I have talked to multiple people who say that he throws things at times, like Johnny Depp throwing a phone or whatever, not at people, but
not at people. I think that's the key. He throws objects at walls and lights and other objects, not human beings.
That's right. And and like, as all of us know who have had experience with substance abuse, when it seems to me that when Manson, when he's been on a down or whatever, then of course he's been crabby, and of course he can be a prima donna, just like a number of these movie stars are. I even saw some prima donna behavior in Johnny Depp, to be honest. People won't like me saying that, but from what I could see, though, none of that is abuse. And I do not believe Marilyn Manson is not an angel. He's had a number of tumultuous relationships, and that's stuff. That there's some stuff coming out with that showing that his relationships have not always been rosy. But I have not found evidence to indicate that he is an abusive person or that he has done the things that these women have accused him of. And in fact, to the contrary, I've found a lot of evidence to indicate not.
Pointing in the other direction.
Right.
Very interesting. I think the last time I tried to do, I actually did a couple of polls, I believe, if I remember correctly, right when the Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial ended, which the crowd was very evenly split, and most people were just like, I need more evidence, I need more evidence, I need more evidence, which rightfully so, I absolutely agree with. And then just a week and a half ago, I remember when I was traveling, the hashtags Marilyn Manson is innocent and I stand with Marilyn Manson were trending on Twitter all of a sudden. And that it came as both you and another Twitter handle, I think called Manson Cases or something like that, investigating. And they post a lot of documents that they've been researching on the internet, highlighting relevant portions like the one that I'm clinging onto just because it's I think very significant for me as a lawyer. When you have a case, right, a criminal case, civil case, it doesn't matter. As a human being, it already strikes. It strikes you even more when you look at an allegation where document has been allegedly doctored, modified, altered, forged. These are all essentially synonyms. Uh, People who tell the truth don't need to do that. And if there's even a hint of a suspicion, I mean, we're not saying she's guilty of anything just yet, because we don't have
Well, let me
concrete.
just say, actually, sorry to interrupt you. Let me just say about the
Please.
FBI letter. We actually do know that Evan submitted that fake FBI letter. So to people in the audience who might not know, one of the things that Marilyn Manson is accusing Ilma and Evan of is of fabricating a letter that's supposedly from the FBI, and it wasn't, and forging this FBI document which says that Marilyn Manson was under investigation and that Evan Rachel Wood was a witness in this investigation, et cetera, right?
Wow.
Now, the reason that one of the ways that we have documented that FBI letter and what she did with that is that she actually submitted that fake FBI letter in a custody dispute that she was in with the father of her child, Jamie Bell. She was in a custody dispute with him. It was over whether the child was going to live in Tennessee primarily or was going to live in California. And one of the things that she was wanting to prove, Evan Rachel Wood, in this dispute, is that she needed to get the hell out of California because she was a witness in this investigation and Marilyn Manson was dangerous and all that. So she needed to run away. And so she submitted this fake FBI letter in this custody dispute. So this was actually a part of the court documents that she filed as a part of this custody dispute. So to me, that's one of the things, like when people say to me, okay, putting opinions aside and stuff, but what do you think are like the real good pieces of evidence? I think that forged FBI letter is just really damning. And it also shows that she's duplicitous when it comes to her custody hearing. That's a whole other ball of wax if anyone wants to look at that. But the custody dispute with Jamie Bell, where he accuses her of withholding his son from him, of being, he says that her claims against Manson they defy credibility. He basically said that she's using this Manson stuff to keep him from his child, like really like stuff that does not make her look good. And so, but anyway, that's one of the places where this FBI letter ended up. And so, Manson in his lawsuit, he says that, and I believe this, and I've heard that this is the case, that this letter was validated by the FBI, that the FBI now is aware that Evan Rachel Wood and Ilma Gore fabricated this letter posing as an FBI agent, and they could be in some big trouble.
And that is currently actually under investigation of her fabricating this letter. Wow. Let me just address this super chat real quick. Solo 2469, thank you for the generous super chat. Glad you made it home safe. And he's saying good evening to us both. Thank you for that, Solo.
Hair's mess. I'm like, my hair. Go ahead.
It's Sunday. Like,
I'm listening to you.
Yeah. I mean, if I had long hair, I'd probably be in the same boat. Trust me, you're all good. Okay, so thank you for clearing the air on that, because I really have been wondering about it.
There is one thing that I wanted to discuss a little bit because it's pretty recent. So there were some documents that, well, I don't want to say leaked. Someone found them through correct means, but there are documents out there. But well, let me scratch that. Someone did post some documents this week from a court hearing. It was a restraining order. Ilma Gore, it was against Ilma Gore. So the sister of Ilma Gore, Brighton Gore, filed a restraining order against her. So this was a TRO hearing. And so basically what this is the sister of Evan Rachel Wood's co-conspirator. And this sister is where some of the evidence discussed in Manson's lawsuit came from, because apparently what happened was Ilma Gore gave her sister an old iPad, a used iPad. And guess what was on the iPad? All of these documents that are now in Manson's lawsuit showing that Ilma and Evan conspired to frame him, including them talking about this fake FBI letter. Well, so basically what happened was someone posted this week on Twitter some documents from some very selectively chosen documents from the court hearing, this TRO hearing between Ilma and her sister, in which it basically, so the TRO was not granted, which makes the sister look bad. And also the documents that this person posted on Twitter selectively were all documents that made the sister look bad and that made Ilma look better. So Ilma had gotten some witnesses from Australia to say that the sister was crazy and stuff like that, right? So the point of that is that the one of the main sources of evidence in Marilyn Manson's lawsuit is this sister who filed the TRO. So now you have Evan Rachel Wood supporters saying, well, look, the sister didn't win the TRO hearing, and the sister, there's this evidence that the sister is nutty, so this must invalidate Manson's evidence. Well, no, it doesn't, because this evidence can be forensically examined and is being forensically examined, and I've been told has been forensically examined. And the evidence is the evidence. So it doesn't matter if, hypothetically speaking, the sister were crazy or not. The evidence is still the evidence, and it can be traced, right? So I don't think that invalidates almost anything. You take the sister out of this, you take Brighton Gore out of this, and you still have 95% of the case for Manson still intact. Now, I also want to say too that, as you know, one TRO hearing does not necessarily adjudicate who's wrong and who's right in a situation, right? Judges can get it wrong, people can come unprepared. And what I've been told by sources close to the sister is that the sister was not prepared for this TRO hearing, that she did not realize the lengths that Ilma would go to conspire and to bring in stuff against her. And so she was caught off guard, and that she's considering trying to file another TRO. And I know that
that's currently in the works.
Yes. And so I know that there are a number of people as well who know the sister, who've come out online this week on Twitter and who've defended her and said that these selectively posted documents are not indicative of the whole case, and there's a lot of bad stuff about Ilma that was left out. I don't know, but basically what I think is, ultimately, whether or not Brighton, the sister, is a credible witness, it doesn't really matter for Manson's case. What matters is the evidence that she was able to get off the iPad that Ilma stupidly gave to her. So
interesting. Okay, so that is something we have to look forward to as the new TRO. Has it been filed yet? Do you know? Has it been renewed?
No. I don't know for sure that's going to happen.
You're speculating. I
that is
understand.
speculating. Yeah, no, that is speculating. I'm just saying that the people that I've talked to close to her have said that she's exploring, options, but no, that's speculative. But what we do know, what's not speculative, is the actual evidence that was in Manson's lawsuit, that regardless of what happens with the sister, we still have the evidence.
So let's talk about the deposition real quick. Naturally, as I'm sure you already learned, and most of chat may not know, so I will explain. When a lawsuit is filed, it has certain stages it has to go through that are more or less optional, but they're so universal, pretty much everybody uses them, because they are tools that allow the plaintiff primarily to litigate their case and prove their claim, right? So the complaint is essentially nothing more than a piece of paper or a stack of papers where a plaintiff alleges that a defendant, or defendants in this case, Gore and Wood, have committed, acts of XYZ, and it's supported by the facts in the complaint of what they did, how they did it, and so on. These are just the initial allegations made by the plaintiff, in this case, Marilyn Manson. So the next step is, this is where we're getting all this paper trail stuff from. It's 3 tools that lawyers use. They're called interrogatories, requests for production of documents, and requests for admissions. Each one serves a different purpose, but they're essentially the same type of tool. If I were to really kind of make a blanket statement, maybe doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but you'll understand in a second. So interrogatories are just questions. Here's question 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to whatever. Please answer these questions, and you have to answer them, right? Truthfully, honestly. You're under oath when you do so. Then request for admissions. These are very simply admit or deny. Here's a blanket statement like, you did X, admit or deny, and you do not have a right to an explanation. You can't say, I refuse to answer this. You can actually get the court to force you to admit or deny certain allegations. So admit, deny, whatever it may be. Then the third one is request for production of documents. You, defendant or defendants in this case, are in possession of certain documents that assist me and the trier of fact to come to certain conclusions that are solely in your possession that I don't have any access to. So please provide me these documents, send them to me, blah, blah, blah. Right? So those are the three. Those are the three paper tools, if you will, to get the party that is being sued to provide information, provide evidence, provide documents, and so on. And by the way, it doesn't have to be paper either. It could be video, it could be diskettes, could be thumb drives, computers, whatever, iPads, cell phones, whatever it may be. Well, we saw like in the Johnny Depp trial, all those text message exchanges that were clearly, allegedly, extracted from phones. So now, after all the paper stuff is done, the next stage is to conduct depositions. Depositions are a way for both parties, because everybody is entitled to depose everybody. At some point, Marilyn Manson will be deposed, more than likely. There will be a deposition, and I'm sure it's going to find its way to the internet, where Marilyn Manson is going to be on camera, and he's going to be asked questions by the civil defense attorney representing Gore and Wood, or both. So at this stage, because Manson goes first since he's the plaintiff, he has been trying to schedule, that's all he's been doing as far as I understand, to schedule a deposition to put Evan Rachel Wood in a room with a bunch of lawyers. There's no jury, there's no judge. I mean, sometimes the judge is kind of on call if you anticipate it's going to be a really rowdy type deposition, but that's extremely rare. For the most part, lawyers literally just agree. They email each other, hey, we would like to question Evan Wood on such, do you have these dates available? Here's August 5th, 12th, I can do 5 p.m., blah, 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 blah. Well, that has been done so far, and Evan Rachel Wood has been blasting all over the internet that Marilyn Manson is trying to, quote unquote, silence me by putting me in this room with my own lawyers and his lawyers. I don't believe Manson is entitled to be present in the room, by the way, when this deposition takes place. I mean, she can specifically request that he not be. It's very, very uncommon for the opposing side to be there. I mean, it's not impossible. I've seen cases where the acts swing both ways, but it's about civility. Really, it really is at this point. It's about civility and agreement. The lawyers literally hash it out. Look, is she okay with Manson being there? No, absolutely not. She's not. Okay, so Manson will not be in the room when we depose. Is that okay? Yeah, fine, whatever. What dates do you have? Blah, 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 blah. Again, it's just two human beings talking to one another. The civil attorney, or one of them, and the plaintiff attorney on the civil side and a defense attorney on the civil side. That's it. And when this conversation started taking place, when can we depose, Evan Rachel Wood? The other side basically either did not respond or responded with a story that broke out. Marilyn Manson is trying to silence me by trying to put me under oath, because these are done under oath. I don't know if I mentioned this yet. This is important. So much like a court proceeding, if you remember when Amber Heard was deposed, they used that. Camille Vasquez used Amber Heard's prior deposition because she had certain inconsistent statements that she was testifying to on the stand on direct examination. And so Camille Vasquez on cross-examination used Amber Heard's prior deposition to impeach her. That's the technical legal word, to show that either, are you lying then or are you lying now, kind of thing, if you all have seen the classic statement. So, and that's basically what they're trying to do. They're trying to get the first domino to fall, to put Evan Rachel Wood in a chair with a camera and ask her questions by the plaintiff's attorneys for her to basically retell the story. It's going to be up to them exactly what sorts of questions they ask. And her response to that has been, Manson is trying to silence me.
Yeah.
By trying to force me to speak, he's silencing me. It's almost like, see, I think what the assumption is, again, this is where it started to reek very much of Amber Heard like tactics of gaslighting. People don't when they hear the word deposition, the average Joe that has maybe had a high school education, maybe an associate's degree, they hear the word deposition, they don't know what the hell it means. And unfortunately, that is the majority of the world is not familiar with these legal technical mumbo jumbo, because not everybody went to law school, and they hear the word depose and they hear the word silence and they go, what is this? What is Manson trying to do? Trying to silence this poor young woman who is trying to come forward and all that. But when you start analyzing and digging into it and, trying to look past the gaslighting, understanding these technical terms, you now have an entire situation where you go, wait a second, wait. So you're saying by trying to get me to speak at a deposition to tell where I'm supposed to tell the truth and tell my story, he's trying to silence me. First of all, how does that make any fucking sense in the first place? And secondly, are we even going to get a deposition of Evan Rachel Wood? Or is the first time she's going to testify is going to be at trial? That is a question nobody can answer at this juncture. Again, this is the lawyers hashing and battling it out. But now that I've gone on this long, feels like eternity.
No, I didn't know that stuff, so that's good.
Soliloquy. Yeah. So I'm glad. So I'm informing. Now, armed with this knowledge, what do you think is going through Ms. Wood's mind when she is putting out articles like that, saying he's trying to silence me by deposing me?
Well, she only has two options. So I really don't believe that she thought for 1 minute that she was going to get the pushback that she's got. I think that in her delusional mind, her and Ilma, hers and Ilma's delusional minds, and some of the other accusers, I think that they thought that this would be such a knockout blow that Manson, would just like have to just shrivel up and go away, like a vampire when the sun comes up. And I think that they were surprised also. So I think that they were surprised to get sued. I think, and I think also they were surprised that some of us popped up on the internet and started contesting this and fighting it. I think that they thought that there was no way, because remember when this happened, most people, when these allegations first came out in February of 2021, most people were not familiar with the Johnny Depp Amber Heard stuff. I mean, I know there was this contingent on the internet of people like me who were into the case, but most people, this wasn't on their radar. And the Me Too bubble had not yet started to burst. So I really think that these women, that Evan Rachel Wood, Ilma Gore, and their co-conspirators, I really think that they felt that Manson had no other recourse. And so I think that they've been caught off guard by this. And so they really, Evan really only has two options. She can either fold and she can say, I'm sorry, and it wasn't my fault, and this my girlfriend talked me into it and all of that, which I think is what she should have done. Or she is going to have to do the full Amber, and she's going to have to fight it every step of the way in every way she can. And so of course what she's going to do is she's going to say that what Manson is doing and what people like me are doing is a kind of assault itself. It's a kind of abuse, that she's being abused all over again, right? And she's being silenced. And I think what she means by silenced is intimidated. I think in her world and in the world of a lot of these Me Too activists, they think that they should not have to be challenged. And that's all that I'm asking for people to do.
That's actually terrifying. I'm sorry. That is
go ahead.
Absolutely terrifying. No, just a side comment, because you're exactly right. Like it's the whole Vogue UK. When I read that article for the first time, I nearly fell out of my chair. It ended the article with, it's time to believe women, all women. Basically, just listen to the allegations, do not question them, and just move on with your day, madam and sir. And that is right. Horrific.
It's horrific. It's horrific for a number of reasons, and the most obvious of which being that, I'm sorry, but a lot of people do lie. And I do not subscribe to the idea that false accusations false, like rape and sexual assault and harassment and all that are rare. I do not believe that they are rare. Do I believe that most accusations are false? No, I think probably somewhere in the 10 to 25% range. But there is a significant enough number. And then here's the thing, and I keep trying to tell people this. In these media cases, like when we're talking about celebrities, then the normal rules do not apply. Yes, in a normal world, if you had multiple women accusing a man of something, just a normal guy down the street, I'd be more inclined to say, okay, well, there's smoke, there's fire, maybe it's more likely, maybe. But when you have these big media figures, and someone with Marilyn Manson's image and reputation, he is such an easy target. And so I think that it is not, I don't think it's a weird idea at all to question these allegations or to assume that there's a possibility that they are lying. And it's
Especially
very,
ever since this book became a thing. Can you see it on your
oh
screen?
man, yeah.
When I found out about that, Colonel Kurtz, I nearly had a conniption. I did not know that this was real. I thought this was a joke. I thought at first I was like, this has got to be a meme book, right? No, this is actually real. And I read the last chapter. Somebody posted it on my Twitter. It's literally the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. But I'm sorry, I keep cutting you off.
No, it's no, we're just having a conversation. I'm kind of tired today too, so I kind of appreciate you picking up things.
Of course.
Yeah, so it's people don't want to believe that women lie because it makes things a lot more difficult for all of us, right? Like we want every woman who is assaulted or harassed, we want her to be believed. I want that too. People, there's some people out there that think that I'm a misogynist, or you probably get this too, or I have a chip on my shoulder, or I have some agenda. It's really not that. It's just that I don't think there are enough people out there speaking out on behalf of the presumption of innocence. And this man, Marilyn Manson, Brian Warner, his entire life was basically taken away from him. Now you can say, well, he's still got some money. Okay, but it's not up to you to say how much money someone is supposed to have. All right, I'm sure his bank account and I'm sure his finances have taken a big hit by this. All right, but he's lost his life, not only his livelihood, he's lost his reputation. He's lost, which he did kind of have. All right, at least people weren't thinking he was a rapist or something back in the day. He's lost his reputation and he's lost the ability to do his art. I mean, he's an artist. He loves doing art, and he's been totally now just completely canceled, all because some women got together and said something, and they've not produced any evidence. They really haven't. Evan Rachel Wood, this is another thing that really bothers me. Evan Rachel Wood claims that she's claimed before that she has like boxes of evidence. Like, I've got all of this on tape and I've got like just tons of it. She said she brought it to an attorney. It was just overwhelming evidence. And the attorney was like, yeah, but the statute of limitations is over. But she claims she has all this evidence. And yet she has not produced it. If you watch Phoenix Rising, if you watch that documentary, all that it is it's interviews with Evan and her family, who of course are going to be very biased, Evan and her family. And then there are a couple of pictures there's a picture where someone carved something into someone's, into some initials or something into someone's skin or whatever. Well, I've been told that Evan is the one who did that, right? But it's some random picture of a bruise or of a carving or whatever, but no, like nothing, right? And it's not any different from Amber Heard, who fakes bruises and stuff and then takes pictures of it. You have to put forward real evidence. So what I want to see, I want to hear witnesses, disinterested witnesses, telling me that they observed Marilyn Manson assault someone. I've not heard that. Or I want something on, Evan Rachel Wood claims that she's got all of this audio and video and all of this stuff. Well, show it, Surely you have a video of Marilyn Manson assaulting you, since like you said you did, right? But it hasn't come up. And so, I'm going to be very interested to see when the trial occurs, when this defamation, and it's not just defamation, but when this trial occurs, I'm going to be very interested to see what Evan Rachel Wood produces, because I don't think she has anything.
Right. And if you remember, the way Amber Heard tried to get around the whole, we have all this evidence, it's just that Judge Ascarati blocked it out. And to me, and here's the thing. I remember sitting in the courtroom on Thursday. It was like May 27th, 28th, whatever it was, the last day of testimony. So both sides closed. both sides closed their case in chief. Closing arguments are tomorrow, right? This is back at the end of May. There was a moment after, I want to say it was like 4:30 p.m. Everything was done. One of the younger lawyers, oh no, it was the guy with the curly hair, the curly haired guy, who was sitting next to the right of Amber Heard the entire trial, for most of the trial. He was putting into the record a bunch of names and documents by name. He wasn't putting them all in. He wasn't reading every single word of every single page. That would be madness. But protecting the record for appeal, all these witnesses that they wanted to call, that Judge Ascarati excluded. Now, here is the kicker. Being an attorney, I can tell you from firsthand experience what they were actually doing. A lot of these witnesses, they may have been doctors, they may have been psychologists, they may have been, evidence that was not directly relevant to the case in the eyes of Judge Ascarati. This is her judgment call. This is her courtroom. These are her rules. She gets to call the shots of what comes in and what doesn't come in. And sure, sometimes judges get it wrong. But if, for example, I'll give you a hypothetical. This is not part of the Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial, but let me give you a hypothetical. Let's say Amber Heard had been interviewed by a psychologist or let's make it fancier. Okay, let's make it fancier. She was interviewed by an astrologist. Okay, and he was reading her stars and her signs, and he was going to testify that by virtue of her being fucking whatever Scorpio, yada da 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 da. Judge Ascarati can say, okay, you know what, that does not come in. I don't believe this is relevant to the case. It does not help your defense in any way. I'm not going to entertain an astrologist to come and testify and read tarot cards to the jury, that sort of thing. It's an extreme. I know I'm doing this on purpose. Mm-hmm. So, but Amber Heard had a slew of witnesses and experts and yada, yada, yada that she wanted to call in. The Judge Ascarati said these are in no way, shape, or form going to help your defense. It's a waste of time in my courtroom. You don't like my decision, take it up on appeal. See you there. And Judge Ascarati, again, you have to remember, she puts her reputation on the line when she makes those judgment calls, because she risks that a court upstairs is going to go, no, you made a mistake. You should not have excluded this evidence. You should have let it in. This would have had an impact on the jury's decision. That's basically, in layman's terms, that's the standard, right? Mm-hmm. Well, God forbid, now we're going back into fact land, okay? God forbid Amber Heard had like a video and she goes, Judge, I have a video that I want to show to the jury where Johnny clocks me in the fucking face. And judge will go, oh, no, that is not relevant to the case. I'm excluding that video. Or, oh, I have a video where he penetrated me with a bottle and I was bleeding from my vagina. Oh, no, that is not relevant to the case. I will not. Like, that is bonkers. That is the realm of fantasy. Judge Ascarati would have never in a billion years excluded such concrete, relevant, literally, that's the entire case. This is what the defense is. He actually did these things. This is why I wrote the op-ed, blah, 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 blah. So Amber Heard claiming that I have these boxes, they're probably boxes, but they're boxes of like experts that don't really add anything of value to the case for purposes of a jury making a determination as to whether or not the op-ed has indeed defamed Johnny Depp. That's the bottom line. This is where the difference between fantasy land boxes that the judge did not allow and reality boxes that the judge did not allow. And this is where they clash. And this is, again, this whole concept, just like the deposition with Evan Rachel Wood. Amber Heard is trying to gaslight the world of, look, I have all these mountains of evidence. It's just this bloody judge just wouldn't let me, and it's fantasy. It's
well, Amber Heard's supporters act like there's never been a trial where evidence was excluded before. They act like this is just some bizarre conspiracy. Oh my God, there was stuff that was excluded. Well, yeah, that's what happens in a in a trial. Yeah, so
You can't, I mean, otherwise the trial would literally go on for like a year and a half.
yeah.
Nobody has the patience for that, and it would be a waste of resources, a waste of time. That it would be worse than the OJ trial. You
Well,
know,
isn't
The-
she also? I mean, isn't it also implied that in these critics, these people who are criticizing the judge, are they implying that Judge Ascarati was biased against Amber? I mean, why would Judge Ascarati have it in for Amber Heard? I would think. I don't know anything about Judge Ascarati's background other than she was a former Marine, right? But she looks like the type of person that would be more on the feminist side of things than not. She does not look like a misogynist men's rights person. So what is this idea that she was in the bag for Johnny Depp? Makes no sense. No sense.
I agree. I actually, the most fascinating thing I think about Judge Escarati, because I'm like you, I don't know that much about her, but the background of this case, right? Already had Johnny already had the trial in the UK against the son. There, he actually sued the son. He did not sue Amber Heard in the UK. And, there is an aura, let's say, of corruption in the UK because they don't have juries in the UK. Judges decide everything. And by the way, most of Europe is that way. United States is extremely unique in the jury system. And this is why I absolutely love the United States of America. I love practicing here. I would not have it any other way. Judge Ascarati knew this. She knew two things. She knew, number one, Johnny Depp sued The Sun, which is a newspaper in the UK, and lost. Here, he wanted to sue Amber Heard, the person. That was number one. This is what Judge Escarati knew. And number two, Judge Escarati also knew that Johnny did not have the tool, the mechanism for having the public, the people, determine whether or not the words were truthful or not. It was done, again, by the legal system internally with no external checks and balances. So Judge Ascarati looked at the situation and said, look, Johnny, and his lawyers, of course, talking to his lawyers, I'm going to give you a unique opportunity. You're going to have a jury of 7 who will determine whether or not what this woman said about you is true. Because you did not get this opportunity anywhere else. And I'm giving you my courtroom, since this is where you filed your lawsuit. You have 6 weeks, go. So she had nothing against Amber Heard, nothing for Johnny. It was a pure exercise in, I don't know, intellectualism and legalism. I don't know what you want to call it. She understood.
It was by the book. It was by the book.
It was exactly by the book. She understood the limitations of the system that he was faced with overseas and said, here, you have not had your chance. Here's your chance. Go.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree. I thought it was a very fair trial. And I don't agree either with the idea that having it televised was some horrible injustice to Amber Heard. She's the one who made this public. You just talked to Morgan, right? She's the one who wanted all this to be public. And what happened is, once the snake came around and bit her, then she didn't like it anymore. But she's the one who set all this in motion. It really is what we've seen with Amber Heard, and is really just a perfect example of a kind of a karma. So I have no sympathy for her at all. And I think, other than a few activists and some losers on Twitter, I don't really think anybody's defending her. Michelle Dauber.
Losers you who shall not be named.
You were on Michelle Dauber's hit list, weren't you, or something? She posted about you.
Currently is.
Well, yeah. I'm sure we all are.
Me? I think she posted something like 2 days ago, like, this misogynistic asshole. Have you seen what he has written?
Oh, she said, I know what she said. She said that your post about the Manson case, that you were testing the waters to see if this could be your next move after Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. It's
Oh,
like,
right, because
give me a
I'm
break.
hunting for these things, of course. I have no law firm to run or anything.
Or
I
no,
literally
nothing else to
live
cover.
and
No,
breathe.
I know.
Yeah. Let me just address these
Yep.
super chats real quick. Mrs. DL's dude says horrific and illogical. This is going back to the whole Vogue, believe all women. What about a lesbian couple? Believe both women. What about a gay couple? Believe neither man. It's complete nonsense. And I completely agree. Solo 2469, thanks again. I think Larry is going to steal my girlfriend. Just kidding. Who's your girlfriend, Solo? I don't know. I'm not trying to steal anybody's girlfriend, but I think he's trying to make a point of you can make allegations about anyone at any point, and good luck now disproving that
Right.
it's true or false. I think that's what Solo
Right.
is trying to make there. And Tracy says Unsealed has proven the fuckery that went on with the Manson case. I imagine is what you're referring to. Please clarify if I'm incorrect.
Oh, I was thinking that was more Depp what they were talking about, but anyway.
Maybe Depp as well. Yeah, because we kind of traversed into Depp territory here for a while. But it's because there's a lot of misunderstanding, misconception, misinformation. And when, these liars like Amber Heard to the front lines and begin gaslighting the world about certain concepts, certain ideals, it is up to people like yourself, Colonel Kurtz, and me to clear the air, to explain to the world, now, wait a minute, that's not what this means. What is really going on here? And then, of course, get attacked on the back end. Like, of course, you're choosing sides because you're a man or whatever. And they're even calling you a misogynist, which, God, you're a rare breed. A misogynistic woman is almost non-existent. I
Well,
mean,
the term
you're like, you turned on your own sex. I mean, God bless.
This is actually a popular idea, though. It's some strains of feminism. It's called internalized misogyny, and the idea is that I myself have experienced so much misogyny that I have unconsciously decided that I am going to identify with my oppressor, men. It's kind of like the equivalent of I don't want to use the term, but we're talking about slavery, like an Uncle Tom, basically. So they would see me as a kind of
I thought you were going to talk about oh my God, what is that psychological term?
double consciousness, or
No.
Stockholm Syndrome.
Stockholm Syndrome.
Yeah,
Yes.
kind of like that. That's basically what they're claiming. And so yeah, and it's hard for me to disprove that. How do you prove that you're not something? A common critique that I get is this question of why would I want to focus on this topic? Why, as opposed to others? Like, there must be something wrong with me that I want to focus on this idea of false allegations. And I don't know why anybody in life ever is interested in anything. We all have different diverse interests. Not everybody can be a lawyer. Not everybody can be a teacher. There are plenty of people out there who are making the case for Me Too. I don't think there are enough people out there who are making the case for the presumption of innocence. I think we're just totally now in a society where people do not see the point in a presumption of innocence. They almost view innocent men as like collateral damage. Well, if in protecting women we have to put away a few innocent men or destroy the lives of a few innocent men, well, that's okay. It's not okay.
I mean, that's absolutely terrible. And that goes back to the whole believe all women, unquestionably, do not dig deeper, do not investigate type deal. And I think you're onto something here. I think if this started at the tail end of 2020, beginning of 2021, the Me Too movement was still going pretty strong. I mean, it did lose some headway with the whole Biden administration when Biden was questioned about some sexual allegations, and they kind of like said, all right, well, we love Me Too unless it's talking about one of ours. Like we don't want to talk about one of ours, and they kind of pushed all that back to and I remember Michelle Dauber, and I will admit, I believe I misquoted her. I misquoted Michelle Dauber. Can you believe it? It was on complete accident, just because I assumed that she was on a certain path. She actually, I will give credit where credit is due. She does deserve this one little grain sand of credit. when the allegations about Biden, Joe Biden, our current president, came forward, and people were trying to push the whole we don't need to investigate, we don't need to look into this. It was actually Michelle Dauber, and she was kind of alone in this. She came forward and she said, if we this is where I misconstrued the statement, because I quoted her saying, this will be the death of Me Too. But she meant it in the opposite direction. She actually said, and I found her quote, she said that if you ignore these allegations against our current / future president right now, this was November, December of 2020, going into the inauguration January of 2021, you're basically killing the movement by not investigating an individual that is allegedly has committed, sexual assaults against a woman or women, whatever it was. So I will give credit where credit is due. I thought it was the other way. I thought that Michelle Dauber jumped on the ship of let's kill Me Too as soon as it's targeting one of our own, but she actually went in the opposite direction. So that I will admit, I did make a mistake. I think I had a tweet a few weeks ago where I called her out on this, and I was wrong. I was completely wrong. So but this is the other problem. She's a diehard fanatic of the Me Too movement, and she, of course, is against the whole split. I don't think she believes that men can be abused in any way, shape, or form. She's of the believe all women camp. What's the technical term for it? Toxic femininity, which is a term. Feminazis is another one, that I came to know through the Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial, and it's bizarre. It's not something that I can wrap my head around. But again, extremists in every camp, you're going to have extremists, and so I look forward to seeing what, first of all, you have to offer, since obviously you've done more than just a preliminary cursory investigation. You've went on a full deep dive. You've interviewed future witnesses in this trial, people who, when it goes to trial, and people have been asking, like, when is it going to go? When is it going to go? It's not going tomorrow or next week, everybody. Okay.
It'll be a while. Yeah.
It's going to be a while. It may be summer of next year. It may be winter of the year after that. Like I have it marked as 23, 24. And that's not uncommon, especially since the complaint was only filed 5 months ago on Tuesday. These things take time. We have other trials to look forward to. We have the Daybell trial coming up in January. We have the Kevin Spacey trial coming up next July. We have the Kristen Smart trial happening right now in Salinas, I think, and they're resuming testimony tomorrow. So we have plenty of stuff to look. Masterson, by the way, didn't Masterson just start, or is he at the end of August? I forget.
Yeah, I don't know. And I was going to ask you what you thought of the Spacey case, because so the Spacey case and the Danny Masterson case, those are two examples. I've not looked into either of them. Those are two examples of cases that on their face it would appear these men are guilty. And if you ask me right now, what do you think? I'd say, well, based on what I've heard, it's probably guilty. But I actually have not looked into these cases. And I have been told by some people that there are some reasons for some maybe a little head scratching in the Kevin Spacey case, at least. But I don't know, and I haven't looked into it. Do you have any opinions on it?
No, not yet. I've been, like I said, I have my own business to run. And then with the Johnny Depp Amber Heard, I jumped on the Kristen Smart train. Unfortunately, they postponed testimony for a couple of days. So literally the few days I was supposed to be there, they resumed right when I was supposed to leave. Danny Masterson starts next month. I apologize.
How many women? It's multiple women with him too? With Danny?
4, I think. Yeah, okay. 4 women.
And that's tied in with the whole Scientology thing, which to me that's fishy too. Like I think anybody who's heavily involved in Scientology, and that's an abusive cult. So
Tom
there's
Cruise comes to
a lot
mind,
going on
right?
there. Yeah. Yeah.
But no, so Kevin Spacey, I said July. It's actually June. It's going to be in the UK in 2023 next year. So next summer, about 11 months from now. we're going to see that. But right now, my focus is going to be on Kristen Smart. I'm probably going to go back there in about 3.5 weeks to take a look at the jury and report back. Again, something that nobody apparently knows how to do properly. Even court TV. I remember at the end of the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial for the last 2 days, if you look at what's her name, the reporter for court TV. I can't. I'm blinking on her name right now. Somebody will call it out. Chanley Painter. I remembered. Chanley Painter. Chanley Painter started tweeting like juror reactions the last couple of days of testimony, and she's not even doing that now in the Kristen Smart trial. I don't know why. That's probably her network's decision. That's on them. But I'm gonna go back probably at the end of August and do that, and I'm gonna double down. What my plan is I'm gonna go down because they're both in California. They're 5 hours apart, so I'm probably gonna fly. I'm not gonna drive like I did last time, since this is gonna be more planned in advance. I want to fly over there, go to Salinas, cover the Kristen Smart for a day or two, and then come down to LA. This is going to be in LA County. Danny Masterson, I think, starts on August 27th. So again, I don't know if I want to be there right at the outset because the jury is still fresh. You know, the beauty that I had with the jury and the Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial is I walked in literally as the fireworks were going off. You know, Amber Heard is on the stand. She is still on direct examination. Then I begin to hear the cross examination, and I look at the jury and I go, holy crap, they don't believe this bitch at all. Like, oh my God, I need to tell the world. You know, nobody's reporting this stuff. I'm the only one who has eyes on this thing. That's where my popularity. I want to take this this skill set that I have and apply it to other trials. And it's kind of like a double-edged, not double-edged. It's like a dual purpose thing. I'm both testing my own mettle to see, can I do this with other cases, and am I right? And of course, to prove to the world, am I a fraud, a sham, and a fake, or do I actually have something that maybe not everybody has? You know. So that's kind of like a proof to myself and a proof to the world in one sitting.
I see. A real test. I would say a real test of your manhood, but we don't want those kinds of sexist terms. So,
so misogynistic of you, or feministic, or I don't even know anymore.
Hey, I have a random question. Do you feel like DUI cases have gone down in numbers since Uber has become so popular? Or do you see the same amount of business no matter what?
No. DUIs have certainly gone down. And I always like to say DUIs are a problem. They're a thing that we need to solve, not get more of. I always tell people, put me out of business. You know, I'm going to do the next thing, like go to the Manson trial, you know, and watch and report back, and do YouTube videos. But definitely has gone down. Like when I started practicing in 2014, I remember this was before Uber. Uber was right on the cusp. And maybe it was already alive in California, but in Kentucky, I don't think we had it yet in Louisville. And so I remember we had like 3,200 or some odd DUIs that year in the state of Kentucky. I think that was including all counties. Maybe it was just Louisville. Again, don't quote me on this. I don't remember. I just remember 3,000 was like a big number. And then 2 years later, or not even, like 15 or 16, it dropped by half. We had like 1,600, which was, I mean, phenomenal. You know, over a 365-day period, we had a significant, 50% drop, which is huge. But the problem is a lot of Kentucky is still rural, where you have to rely on taxis. So other than like Louisville, Lexington, Northern Kentucky, people still are, and people are going to make stupid decisions. And a lot of times, like, I don't want to say, I don't know, 80% of my cases maybe are people who have just like experienced a traumatic event recently. They're not recidivists, people who commit this on a daily and, oh no, I finally got caught. It's they lost their job, they're going through a divorce, they lost their child, it could be or they're just going through depression. It could be a myriad of factors, but rarely do I get the, yeah, this is my 17th DUI and I need representation. You know, those are there's a less than 1/10 of 1% of our cases.
Hmm.
So you get your occasional seconds, but for the most part, um, it's yeah, it's a lot of them are just passers through as well. I know Kentucky police officers, just like any other state, they see a Florida license plate, they see a Kansas license plate, you know, they get a little trigger happy, looking for anything and everything that they can, because these people are passing through. Maybe they have some weed on them, maybe they have something else, you know. You never know. So
Right. Well, cool.
well, I really wanted to thank you for joining me, Colonel
Thank
Kurtz.
you. Thank you for having me.
A lot of fun, for real, and we should definitely do this again once we get maybe some more concrete. Maybe we can take like one, not document, but maybe like set of documents at some point, sit down and just kind of hash it out and do a live on that. I think that would be a lot of fun for the audience.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. And I'm sure as crazy as this case is, there are going to be many twists and turns in the road. So
I'm going to try and keep my ear to the ground as well.
cool. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for joining me. And thank you, chat, for participating. Thank you for the donations. And I will see you all next time.